Joining me now is Congresswoman Jennifer McClellan, and she's a Democrat of Virginia. Congresswoman, let's start with the president in East Asia this week, where he's expected to meet with China's President Xi Jinping to negotiate a trade deal after he slapped new 100% tariffs on China due to a dispute over rare earth minerals. Today, U.S. and Chinese officials negotiated a framework that appears to have paused Trump's tariff threat and China's restriction on rare earth minerals while resetting Chinese imports on American soybeans. How have the president's trade wars impacted Virginia and your constituents, Congresswoman?
Well, I can tell you those trade wars have been disastrous for Virginia, particularly our farmers, who at this point in the harvest have a significant order into China. Right now, we have farmers in Virginia that have soybeans that are some sitting in the fields because they don't have people to pick them because of the president's immigration policies, and then don't have a market to send them to once they are picked. And so my farmers are worried. They're also worried, many of them who are on the Affordable Care Act, that they're going to see the cost of their health care spike up on November 1st as they still don't have a market to send these soybeans.
While President Trump is overseas, we're entering the fifth week of a government shutdown here at home. Federal SNAP benefits are about run out at the end of the week, but the administration refuses to use billions of dollars in emergency funds to fill the gap. And hundreds of thousands of federal employees are working without pay, some relying on food banks to get by. But Trump is using all kinds of workarounds and exemptions to make sure soldiers and ICE agents get paid. And then, of course, there's his White House ballroom project. Your thoughts on his priorities right now, Congresswoman?
His priorities clearly are not the American people. His priorities are himself and his billionaire friends, or the president of Argentina. Argentina, which is a big competitor for American soy farmers, he just sent them a bailout of about $20 billion because their ultra-conservative president had nice things to say about him. But right now, we have people who are about to lose their SNAP benefits because this president, this administration refuses to follow the guidance in their own shutdown protocols. There is a $6 million contingency fund that they could use. And I think if the president can find $20 million for Argentina bailout, then he can certainly find the money to fund SNAP for another month. And oh, by the way, there is a bill that Congresswoman Amelia Sykes filed in March that I co-sponsor that would have extended SNAP benefits for 3 additional months in the shutdown. That bill has languished since March, and Speaker Johnson has not called the House back for a vote or a committee hearing or any work since September 19th. So I think the president's priorities are wrong, Speaker Johnson's priorities are wrong, and we need to have Republicans come to the table and negotiate an end to this stalemate.
Now, at the core of the shutdown is the fight in Congress over health insurance subsidies. As costs continue to rise and open enrollment on the federal health insurance marketplace opens a week from tomorrow, the Washington Post is reporting premiums for the most popular plans are expected to spike as much as 30% in 2026. 17 million Americans could stand to see their payments double or triple next year. You've been sounding this particular alarm on health care for months. What are you looking for in the coming days?
We need to have a deal that extends the enhanced premium tax credits immediately. Actually, it's closer to 22 million Americans who could see their insurance premium spike, some as much as 114%. These are small business owners and their employees. These are our entrepreneurs. These are our farmers. And about 80% of the people who purchase on the exchange actually live in states that Donald Trump won. So he is hurting the people who voted for him. He is hurting all Americans. And this is on top of the draconian Medicaid cuts in the big ugly law that put our rural hospitals at risk. And between all of these actions, the CBO estimates you could have up to 17 million Americans lose their health insurance. They're still going to get sick. They're going to show up in the emergency room when it's more expensive to treat them. And the rest of us will see our premiums go up as well. This is a crisis of Republicans making. They need to come to the table and address it immediately.
Let's talk about redistricting, which Democratic state lawmakers just took up in Virginia, announcing last week that they'll attempt to pass a new congressional map that grows the state's Democratic delegation at midterms next year. Several red states have already moved on redrawing their maps to boost the GOP numbers in Congress. Do you think it's the right move for Virginia to join California as the only blue state so far to respond, Congresswoman?
Well, first, what Virginia is about to do is begin the process to have the option on the table if more of these states continue to follow Trump's playbook and do midterm redistricting. Here, we've got to pass a constitutional amendment 2 sessions in a row with an intervening election. And so if this first step doesn't happen next week, then that forecloses any option. And I think given that Trump continues to ask red states to change the map midterm, I think all options need to be on the table to respond to this unprecedented move.
Now, staying with the upcoming elections, in your state, most polls show Democratic Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger with a considerable lead in her governor's race against Republican Lieutenant Governor Winston Earl Sears. Are you feeling confident about a Democratic victory there, Congresswoman?
I am feeling confident because from the beginning, Abigail Spanberger has made clear she will fight for Virginians. She will fight for our federal workers who are being attacked by the Trump administration. She will fight to lower costs on everything from health care to energy bills to groceries, because that's what's top of mind of Virginia voters. And they want a governor that's actually going to put our interests first, not be a cheerleader for Donald Trump, which is what Winsome Sears has been. She's even said that the federal workforce cuts are not a big deal. But I think rising unemployment and the impact that it and the big ugly law and all of these federal funding cuts are having on Virginia is a big deal. Abigail Spanberger is the only candidate that is actually putting Virginians' needs first.
All right. Thank you for being with us, Congresswoman.